Hello, my name is Adam Kahn, and this is Cooking with Adam Kahn and Leisure. I'm super excited today. We're going to make an Osso Buco, and we're going to do it with some risotto as well that we're going to put it on top of. I've never tried doing Osso Buco, and it was one of my mom's favorites, which is why I'm really excited about it. But I've got a great recipe for it I'm going to show you guys. I've got these new things along. I even found my father-in-law had bought this nice burner that we've got right here. So now I can talk to you while I'm cooking. You may not see inside. I may have to come and move the camera a bit, whatever else, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it works out well. So I already prepped all the ingredients. I got cut up some carrots and onion and celery and stuff that we'll use. Said to use I don't know, 2 or 3 garlic cloves. So I've got 8 or 10 of them here because for those of you who've watched a little bit, you know how much I like garlic. So I'll get started and I'll keep yapping away about whatever. All I've got here is about, I don't know, half cup to maybe 3/4, possibly a whole cup of flour. I'm gonna add salt and pepper to it instead of directly to the meat. And the reason for that is I'm actually gonna use the flour in the cooking as well. So I wanna use some salt and pepper. And that way I don't over season the meat either. But let's start out. We'll do the salt. Get that out of the way now that you've seen it. A little bit of pepper. Get that in there. And then we want to flour the meats really well. Hopefully the plate's not too small, but part of that is we're going to use that in the sauce to thicken it up also. So get that coated really well. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going to take some olive oil. I'm going to add about maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons into the pot. Coat it real well. I think it's heating. Make sure this is coated. And get these in. Now it's going to take a good, I don't know, 4 to 6 minutes on each side. It takes a little while to get it brown. I'm going to add a little bit of more oil to make sure the pan's coated. Again, maybe I'll bring the camera over so you guys can see. And we'll get these both floured nice and good. These look like really good pieces. Now traditionally, it's done with veal shank. It's not so simple to find veal shank out here in Vegas. And it's much easier to find beef. It can be done with beef or pork or lamb or anything else too. You really just want to make sure it's cut right where you're getting the bone like that, so you have the marrow and everything else cooking in it. So using the beef is just fine. Hopefully it tastes as good as I'm hoping, but we'll find out later when we do the tasting. Whoops, burn myself. So, and we're going to save the rest of this flour because we're going to add that in after we cook the mirepoix down. So we'll let that cook a bit. We'll flip it over, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like when it's browned, and we'll go from there. So the meat's done. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to continue to cook it, but I'll take it out. I'll show you the color so you can see. And we're just going to take them out and put them to the side. Grab them. So I'll bring this up to the camera and hopefully it's close enough that you guys can see the color. It's got some nice color just on the outside. Pan could be a little bit hotter, but like I said, getting used to this one. Now, I wanted to do it in here because I want to get that meat flavor through everything else. So now I'm going to just add the mirepoix. So all I did is I cut up some carrots, some onions, some celery, and we're going to pour that right in. I did a lot of carrots. The funny thing is, I don't really like carrots too much, but they're sweet and they had a really good flavor when they're cooked down. None of it needs to be cut up small. Nice big pieces is just fine. And then I'm going to mix this in. We're going to give it about 5 minutes. And here, I'll show you. Here's a piece of carrot. Look at, let me grab it and bring it over so you guys can see. Because really, you don't need any of it too small. Look, I cut these up nice and big. Same with the onion. It's not like diced or anything else. And same with the celery. Everything was cut big. And there's a good trick for the celery. If I just take the whole stalk and cut off the core so it breaks into pieces, I can then just cut that every inch or so and pull out the middle that I'm not using. Now there's some dishes that I want the leaves because I like the flavor of the leaves. This is not one of them. So we're gonna let that cook down a bit. I'm gonna add a little bit more salt and pepper, not a ton because we've got it in the flour and I don't want it too salty, but I do want to get some into the vegetables. I want to get the flavor of the vegetables into the oil before we add anything else. And then I'll show you exactly from there what we do. Because it's kind of cool. And I loved watching this and seeing how it comes out. So we're just going to stir these, I don't know, I'm probably going to give them 5-6 minutes. Let it till they're like sweating and kind of beginning to shrink. And then I'll bring the camera over, I'll point it into the pot so you can see and show you what it looks like. No point in you guys just watching me sit and stir and stir. It just takes a little while. Just keep on top of it if you're doing it on your own. Stir it every minute or two so it doesn't stick to the pan or burn. You don't want to brown it, you just want them to start to sweat. So this is how it looks after maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes. Just beginning to sweat now. I'll show you what I do next. I'm going to add about half of the rest of the flour. So mix that in. And get that in real good. It's going to pull up anything that was on the bottom of the pan. Helps to thicken up the sauce later on. Right now it'll coat the vegetables a bit. See how it's pulling up anything on the bottom of the pan? See how that kind of clears it off? And I'm going to do the next one in a couple of steps. Most people just pour it right in, but I'll show you on high heat. Instead of just dumping it all in, we end up using about a half bottle of red wine. I'm going to use about a quarter of it now to deglaze the pan a bit and pull the rest of that up. Then I'll add the rest. The other thing is I'm going to let this cook down to burn off the alcohol before adding any of the tomatoes or chicken stock or anything like that. The one thing I did off camera that you guys didn't see how it's pulling it all up, cleaning it off the pan. Now I can add the rest of the wine. So the one thing you guys didn't see when it was off camera is the tomatoes I use whole peeled and a little bit of just regular tomatoes. I just kind of took them with some gloves and smushed them all up. That's the way I like to do it. I don't want to cut it up with a knife and really change the texture. I kind of like getting the pieces of the tomato in there, but I like when I just kind of squish them up and break them up that way. So I'm going to let the wine cook down a little bit. We're probably going to give it a good 10 minutes or so, and then I'll come back and we'll add the other stuff and show you how it goes. See how well the wine coats it and thickens up with the flour and everything else. So I'll put the camera back and show you guys what we do from here. Alright, so hopefully you can see me well again. All I'm doing is I'm going to add our tomatoes. I'm going to put about half of it in now, and then I'll add the rest because I just do everything in steps this way. But oh, I love how it smells. The garlic, don't need to chop it up or grate it or anything else. All whole garlic. Recipe calls for maybe 3 cloves. I've got 10. I like garlic. So we just put those all in and give it a bit of a stir. This looks so good. Nothing like, some vegetables cooking, and I don't even love vegetables so much. But the smell and how it goes with everything else, with the wine, and we're going to add some stock and the garlic and everything. So now I'm going to take our beautiful shanks and put them back in. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to add a tiny bit of parsley I cut up and mix that in. I'm also going to add a tiny bit of rosemary. You don't need much, and we're going to add it at the end. But that's going to give it all some nice flavor too. Get that mixed in. Put our shanks back in. We're going to add about 2 or 3 cups of beef stock. Any beef stock is fine. If you're stuck, you can use chicken stock, but since it is beef, I'd rather use meat. So let's give this, I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 cups. There's 4 in here total, so I'm going to use about half of it. And I'm going to add the rest of the tomatoes. And you have 2 options from here. You can use an oven-safe pot, and you can put it in the oven at like 375 and let it cook that way. I like to let it cook on the cooktop. I like the way that the heat works from coming from the bottom. It's a little bit more of a pain in the butt because you got to keep an eye on it and stir it from time to time and make sure nothing's sticking. But all we do from here is cover it and let it cook. That's it. And it takes a good 3 hours or so on low heat, 375 or 350 in the oven, and then we'll see a nice tender meat. The flavor will have time to cook down with the broth, and we're going to put that on top. And I'm going to make a wonderful risotto to put it on top of. I'm going to show you guys the risotto as well, because whether you're eating this or just risotto or something else, it's a good recipe to have. And if you enjoy cooking as much as I do, you can cook it all the time. All right, see you in a bit. So now the Osso Buco's been cooking about 2 hours, so I'm hoping I have about an hour left. Heating up a pan to get the risotto started. I'm going to say, my name's Adam Kahn. This is Cooking with Adam and Lee Zhu. The reason I'm going to say that is I might show this as a separate video as well. So I'm going to give maybe a couple tablespoons of olive oil to get in the pan. And I can tell from how it's moving that probably the pan's a little too hot, because everything with risotto is kind of low and slow type of thing. I'm going to add a little bit of butter just to give it a little bit of flavor. Yeah, for sure. So turn the pan down a bit. Now I'm going to get some onions, and we're going to cook those down. Same thing, low and slow. I don't want them to brown, but I do want them to start sweating and get translucent. Probably give it a good 5-10 minutes until it has nice color that I'm looking for. And then from there, I'll show you what's next. But you got to give this dish a lot of love. It's not about speed. You can't rush it. You can't hurry it up. Risotto is about having the right temperature, giving it the time it needs, and cooking it slowly. But it's well worth it. So give me a minute. I'm going to turn you guys away and just let this cook for a bit. So while those onions are cooking at the same time, I have these beautiful portobello mushrooms. I'm going to get those going on the regular stovetop. Same thing. A little bit of oil. If you want a little bit of butter for flavor, you can add that. But you want to do it on a low heat and give it time. You want to give it 10-15 minutes on a lower temperature, maybe a medium low, to let it really sweat and get that rubbery texture and not that cooked burn texture. I'll give a tiny bit of salt, the oil, that's it. And then I'm just going to give it about 10 minutes or so. And then we're going to set those onto the side, and we'll bring those in at the end. So here they are. I cut them up earlier. I'll just get those warmed up. So I'm going to bring this over to the camera. I hope you guys can see a little bit better. So that's the color. That's what we're looking for. And all I'm going to do now here, let me see, make sure it's really there. All I'm going to do now, I've already checked the package. The rice cooks for about 20 minutes. This is not going to count towards those 20 minutes of time. But what I want to do is I want to give it a toss with the onion and the oil and the butter. Forgive my brain fart. And I want to cook these for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, just like that, to get them a little toasted. Normally I would wash rice, but when you're making the risotto, you don't need to. The other thing is, this is arborio rice. It's important that you get a very starchy rice. It doesn't have to be arborio. You can do a little bit of research. There's some others that work as well, but you need the right rice to get the right risotto. So you want something nice and starchy. Arborio is really easy to find at most like Kroger's chain type of places. If you're in California, Ralph's and things like that. I'm here in Vegas. Smith's and Albertsons are both going to carry it. So it's readily available, and it seems to be something that's easy to find. Some of the other ones are a little bit tougher, but give me a few minutes, I'll get that cooked down, and I'll bring you to the next step. So I've been toasting it for maybe, 4 or 5 minutes. I'm going to take to start maybe a quarter cup of white wine and a quarter cup of the chicken broth. And we're just going to add that and mix it in a bit with the rice. And then we'll go from there. Now you want to start keeping an eye on the clock there. I would say you have about 20 minutes from here once you start adding liquid to it for the rice to absorb it. But you don't cook it in liquid. I mean, you do. But after this comes down a bit, all I do is put enough chicken broth or in there or whatever you like to use, if it's a vegetable stock or something else. And you just put enough to cover the rice, so it'll continue to absorb it. But you don't cover it where you like cook rice in a big bowl of water. So I'll show you that next step as well. So that doesn't take too long. So now I'm going to add enough chicken stock to kind of cover the rice, but not completely, just enough to maybe get in the pan an inch high. And then we're going to continue to stir and stir and stir. This is, like I said, it's a dish of love. It takes time. You don't want it on too high heat, but you should cook it the same amount of time that the rice recommends on the label. So this had 20 minutes. We'll continue to add a little bit of liquid at a time, let it cook into the rice, let it thicken up each time, and we'll add a little bit more water or chicken stock or whatever it is that you like to use each time as we let it evaporate. So see how nice that's getting? And the starch, and it starts to thicken up the water and the rice all at the same time. I don't know if you guys can see, I'll kind of turn it towards you. It just slowly continues to thicken and thicken and thicken, which is nice. Now towards the end, what I'm going to add is a little bit more butter, and then I grated up some Parmesan cheese, and I'm going to add a tiny bit of cream, which not everybody does, but I kind of like how that makes it. And then we'll add the mushrooms and let it all go from there, so you'll get to see it as we move along. Nothing like a great risotto. So it's only been about 3 or 4 minutes, and I don't know if you can see, but see how the liquid is already almost gone. So this is where I add more, and same thing, I add to maybe a ½ inch to an inch into the pan, and let it do it again and again and again for the full 20 minutes of cooking the risotto. I don't know if you can see here, I took the mushrooms that I was cooking and put them to the side. That's kind of how you want them to look. We'll add those towards the end, mix them in, go from there. So 6 minutes into it, you can already see how much it's thickened up and it's drawing in the liquid. I'll add more, do it again. Maybe every 3-4 minutes I'm adding a little bit more liquid, letting it evaporate, letting the rice suck it in, making it scrumptious and delicious. Really, risotto is just one of the greatest. I love this stuff. So the package says 20 minutes. We're already going on 28 minutes, and it's still not done, which is why I keep the spoon here. Every 2 or 3 minutes I'll check, and while you want it al dente, you want it still a little bit soft. These are still uncooked, so I'm just going to continue to give it 2-3 minutes, 2-3 minutes, continue to taste it, add a little bit of broth, and let it keep going until it's the right consistency. So the 20 minutes on the package turned into about 30 minutes. For these last couple steps to finish off the risotto, I want to take it off the heat. I'm going to add some butter and mix it in, let that melt. And I'm going to add a tiny bit of cream too, just to make it a little rich. Again, this is something that I like. You don't need a lot, just that tiny bit like that, maybe a tablespoon or two. And get that mixed in. And while it's mixing, it's cooling down a bit too. You don't want it too hot because I'm going to add the cheese to really thicken it up, which is why I added a little bit of cream. And that's going to be our binder, is the cheese. But I don't want it hot where the cheese starts to melt and become stringy. So I want to give it a couple minutes of doing this and getting the butter all the way through and all the way melted, and letting the risotto cool down a bit before putting that cheese in. So, because again, if it's too hot and you're using a decent cheese, it's gonna get stringy and it's gonna break apart, and it's not gonna be nice binder the way like flour or something else uses, and it's gonna give that salty goodness flavor throughout it. So All right, butter's melted. Let's give it a couple more mixes. Then we're gonna add this grated Parmesan Reggiano that is gonna finish it off. And then I'm gonna show you how to plate it. And I'm gonna show you what we do to finish off the Osso Buco as well. And we're gonna put that right on top after. So 2 really delicious dishes. All right, so let's get this. Give that a good mix and see how it thickens up, and see if we need that a little bit more. Oh, it looks so good. Oh, smell-o-vision. Who's coming up with it? You guys can only dream about the smell. I gotta sit here and smell it and smell it. It smells so good. And see that consistency, how it's nice and thick and kind of stretchy, but I'm not getting strands of cheese. That's what I'm looking for. Too hot, you'd start seeing the strands of cheese pull out, be all cheesy and gooey, which is kind of cool on its own too, but it's not what we're looking for. Let's give that a quick taste and see how we're doing. See if we need a little bit more cheese, which I'm guessing we do. Yeah, just a little. And that should finish thickening it up. Maybe there's about a half cup or so there, I guess. Maybe a little bit less. And I used maybe a cup and a half of rice. Boy, I must have gone through 4.5 or 5 cups of chicken stock. And then as you saw, I added some mushrooms. We still have some on the side that we're gonna put on top when we plate it. So, risotto's ready to be plated. Let me show you how to do that. And then we'll finish off. I'll bring the Osso Buco over there as well. So, we got our mushrooms. Give me a minute while I get a spoon. There we go. Oh, boy, I love this stuff. I hope you guys do too. So, let's take some of this and go right into the middle of the plate, just like that. Then we're going to do a little more, make sure we got enough. I'm going to show you, don't pat it down or anything. It's got the right consistency, what we want to do. I'm going to take some of the mushrooms and put them on top. And then we'll do a little bit of parsley. And I'll show you. And then all you want to do from there, you just kind of want to do this to let it spread out. Look at how delicious that looks. So, let me put a little parsley for color. I'll give you another show of it. Look at how good that is. I could eat it right. Now give me a minute, I'm going to bring the Osso Buco over. I'm going to show you the last couple steps on that, and then we're going to put it right on top of this with the sauce too. Yummy, yummy, yummy. So I'm going to show you the last thing you need to do to finish off the Osso Buco. Technique that I learned, it's really great. So I don't know if you guys remember, we still had a little bit of flour left over at the beginning with the salt and pepper that we used. I'm going to use that, and we're going to use a strainer along with a mixing tool right in the water here in liquid to thicken it up a little bit. Now I do want it liquidy, but I don't want it so liquidy that it's just like water. So all you need to do, strainer in there, take the flour and pour it right in. You don't have to worry too much about spreading it out, although I'd like not to drop it the way I did. And then you dip it in the water, liquid, and you just start feeding it like this to spread it out. You lift it up, do the same, do it again, and that's a good way to get it mixed in. It'll help thicken up the sauce, it spreads it out, and that'll give us a perfect consistency for adding that on top of the risotto. So you just keep doing that and doing that until you go through all the flour, and then we'll mix it in afterwards. So now the final step of plating it on the risotto. So I'm super excited for this dish. We got the risotto that I just showed you a minute ago. We're gonna take our Osso Buco. Oh, it smells so good. I wish you guys could smell it. Try to make sure I don't lose the bone and everything because it's so tender. And put that right on top, just like that. Put it right there. Then all we're gonna do, we're just gonna grab a big spoonful of this delicious sauce that we got, because we love the sauce, right? We want it to be liquidy. It'll get into the risotto, and so you can dip it in and everything else. I'm just gonna take that right on top. Oh boy, that looks so good. And then to finish it off, we're just gonna do a little bit of parsley, and then watch this. A little bit of parsley, give it some there. We're gonna do a tiny bit of rosemary. Don't need a lot. And then, let's see if we can make this look good. We're gonna take this rosemary, just gonna do that. Just like that. Oh, I hope it looks as good as it smells. Then I'm gonna let my wife try it and see what she thinks. I'll video it and we'll get the first reaction. Good.
Hi guys, I'm so excited to try my husband's Osso Buco, I guess you call it. It's Osso Buco, I hope. Yeah. And also risotto. I love rice, and he was cooking, I've been smelling the rice, and I love mushroom. I love mushroom, so excited to try this. I need to try the risotto first. Oh my god, the risotto is so creamy, and the rice is perfect. Texture's like very little chewy, but it's like still very rich. Flavor's very rich. It's really good. I taste the mushroom in it too. Now I'm gonna try meat. Whoa, it's so tender. I cut it with this knife, not even like steak knife. This is amazing. It's so good.
Like it?
I really like it.
All right. Do I get a thumbs up on that one?
2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up.
Uh-oh.
Now my son's not home, but he's missing out. You are missing out, buddy.
Good. Then I don't have to make it for him.